Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to speak at this distinguished conference. This is the fifth day of the conference. Before you have appeared many who gave you different perspectives on counterterrorism. This morning I will try to complement things from the national security perspective. I would like to thank the president of the Reichman University for allowing me to speak. The national security of a nation is based on its ability to protect its contiguity territorially and its values against various internal and external threats. Therefore, national security is measured by the nation's resilience, politically and security-wise, and with an emphasis on the ability to deter against aggression and to decisively be victorious when the time comes, but also based on technological and social resilience and the ability to bridge gaps and rifts in order to exist for the longer range. This is a lot of areas, and if you don't have an economic resilience and growth, Israel will struggle to finance its security needs. Without technology and without broadening the circle of those employed in the various industries, Israel will not be able to maintain its growth trend. And if the economic rifts and the gaps will not be bridged, Israel will find it difficult to maintain its unique nature. The National Security Authority is not responsible for all of these areas of resilience that Israel has as a nation or as a state, but many of them are addressed by us. And what we do is create recommendations. We try to see how to implement the political echelon's directives and to make sure that we are prepared for the various threat scenarios, but just as importantly, that we can utilize the opportunities that we have and to identify them and even create them, because we believe that all resilience factors should be boosted. Israel, in recent times, is enjoying many strengths that keep getting stronger. I would like to begin with our special relations with the United States. We speak a lot about those relations. The United States has been, will be, and is currently a pillar of support for Israel. President Biden's commitment to Israel is clear, it's strong. His visit here about 2 months ago reflected that. Signing the Declaration of Jerusalem and the Technological Collaboration Agreement also are examples of the strong fundamental basis of cooperation between us. We are always in coordination with the administration, even if we do not see eye to eye on various issues, as sometimes happens. We insist on our security interests. The administration is very attentive, responsive, and I will elaborate on that in a few minutes. The second aspect that is very significant and allows us to expand is the momentum of the Abraham Accords and normalization processes with the Arab world. The importance of these agreements is not only to expand the circle of those with whom we are in touch, but its positive projection on the older agreements and accords with Jordan and Egypt. We want to create a new regional architecture of safety and security, but also economic collaboration, civil collaboration. And the title, of course, in this region is Israel's having joined CENTCOM, which is a very important aspect of our ability to remain stable and to remain in cooperation with others. Israel's valuableness in the international arena is not only in security matters. We feel it in many areas. We see it when it comes to our relations with other countries. There is a momentum which we hope is positive and will continue if all goes as planned. Next month, the Association Committee or the Association Council will convene, and the fact that this council is convening after many years of not having convened also attests to momentum in Europe. The might of Israeli deterrence against escalation is clear, even though it is challenged, and of course we'll speak about that soon too. Another factor I want to talk about when it comes to our strengths is the significant constraints that our enemies are experiencing in various arenas. Almost all of Israel's traditional enemies are facing a harsher reality these last few years than they have done before then. The ongoing war in Syria, the internal situation in Lebanon, all of them create opportunities for us, which we must look at and examine. At the same time, we also need to look reality in the eye and to see the significant challenges that we face. Iran, first and foremost, Iran's entrenchment in the nuclear threshold area. It's clear. Iran is not only challenging Israel in terms of its nuclear program, also it has other aspects with which it threatens us. Its proxy activity, weakening the countries around us, its terrorism, the head of Mossad spoke about that, its activity in Israeli society, the head of the ISA spoke about that, and other aspects too. And when we look at this fabric or this interweaving of all these explosive arenas, the way that we grapple is not only vis-à-vis Iran, because the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian arena is also very explosive at the moment. We had a tough week this week. The terrorism generators are expanding in the West Bank. The PA, or its inability to control the territory, is ongoing. And all of these are things we need to face. In the Lebanese arena, Nasrallah's threats against us are increasing. The preparedness to challenge the border is increasing, and all of these actions we must examine. I will also elaborate later on the domestic challenges, which are also in recent years growing. Let's begin with Iran. Iran is the key and top challenge Israel is facing and has been facing in recent years. I spoke to the former head of Mossad, Shabtai Shavit. I joined the Mossad in 1997. The Mossad began to engage in the Iranian arena in Shabtai's time. For many years, of course, it's been growing, the Mossad's engagement in Iran. Israel insists that Iran will not have nuclear weapons, and that's clear. We invest many resources in that, and it is a top priority of ours, and also a top priority in our dialogue with other countries. It is top priority. It is first and foremost before many other things. The negotiations between Iran means that they are not rushing to sign the agreement once again. The leader is determined to stick to their fundamental positions. They continue to conceal parts of its nuclear program. They keep trying to get more and more concessions, and Israel's position is also very clear on this subject. That's it. Enough is enough. The Israeli political echelon for many years, and this crosses throughout the Israeli political spectrum. We object to the JCPOA. We do not think that it improves Israel's security, and it's even more true when the agreement is now towards its end. The sunsets are upon us, and the problems are very clear. we tell our allies, especially the United States, how we feel. We do not object to an agreement with Iran, but we want the agreement to be stable. It needs to be for long term. It needs to be in the spirit of what President Biden said, longer and stronger. For many years, we've been asked, why should Iran agree to a longer agreement if it won't even go back to the former agreement? And the answer is Iran's agreement or Iran's consent is irrelevant. The Iranian leader is not expected to agree to go back to negotiations. Iran never volunteered to give up anything it has. Iran only gives up when its back is against the wall, when it's cornered, and when the pressure has led its leader to the realization that if he will not agree to enter a dialogue, the damage and the impact on his regime and people will be severe. And we believe it can happen again. The current U.S. administration knows that very well. During the Obama administration, when many staff are still an option. Obama said all the options are on the table. And we believe that we can go back to this point of pressure, exert it, and to bring Iran to go back.
We are also waging a political war, and we're doing it especially undercover, closed rooms. The political echelon, the Prime Minister clarifies his position in an overt way, and we're doing all that out of a continuous dialogue with the American administration, and we see some results. We identify attention to our positions, to our opinions. It's true in the US, but it's also true in Europe. And what's happening recently in Vienna with the declaration from wall to wall of all the Western countries for the fact that Iran, time and again, is cheating, basically. The IAEA does not share information. It does not enable supervision. And there's a full backing of the Western countries and the IAEA. Together with the political struggle, we're also clarifying that Israel is going to maintain its freedom of action, no matter where. President Biden, when he visited Israel, said in his voice quite clearly, and he signed the Jerusalem Declaration, that the agreement does not compel Israel to do things, but it has to conduct itself according to the changes that will occur. If there will be a return to that reality, it will release a lot of finances. Some of them, we don't know exactly how much, will come to the region. It's going to enhance the proxy activity against us. And this is going to have an impact on the entire international community, not just on Israel. And in any case, we know that this is the reality. Iran feels safe relatively today as a power in the region. It's got ships in the sea. It's got missiles, cyber. It enhances its weapons, drones, and other means, and many more than they were in the past. It deals with undermining the stability. It deals with strengthening its own military. But it's not just us. It's not just in Israel. The activity that Iran is doing in Yemen is a very... The war against their new allies, they're sitting here in the room, is nothing to do with these countries and Israel. When Iran launched in January of this year and then in February ballistic and cruise missiles to Abu Dhabi and to Dubai, huge scope. Yes, it's true, the Houthis are the ones who launched it, but the backing was Iranian. These things have nothing to do with Israel. It's the wish of Iran to dismantle the structure of life in this region and to dismantle the connection of the Sunni countries trying to live their life. And that's what's dangerous. This activity has an impact on us as well. Israel jumps first, to extend their hand, whether it be in intelligence or security, and of course, political backing. We have a role in this, and we will continue with it. As for the direct terrorism, Iran is generating political terror. They do it directly or through proxies according to directives of the regime, and it uses terror as a weapon. Not many countries allow themselves to do that in such a blatant way and in such a wide way. It uses these tools against us, against the US, against our allies, but also against the Iranian opposition and other countries in the region. The head of the Mossad described the activity here, all the events that happened in Turkey in the last few months. That's a real example to the daring and readiness of Iran to exert its force, but also the capability of good intelligence and political ties to thwart those threats. We clarify to our partners that the international community has to make Iran pay a price for that. This is an international problem, and Iran should know that. And therefore, we struggled for it so that the Revolutionary Guards will not be taken out of the list of terrorists. You cannot take out from the list of terror organizations the largest terrorist organization in the world. Let me talk about a closer circle, the Judea and Samaria, the Bay countries, and the expansion of terror generators. The political directives to act determinedly in order to thwart the infrastructure of terror and to protect the country and to continue the defense on the seam line. We have in very sensitive days. It's before the Jewish holidays, before the elections, and these things have a very real impact. A lot of resources are allocated to impact the agenda of the IDF. Time and again, we have the question of the responsibility of the PA to the situation. I want to clarify that we are interested for the PIA to act determinedly in order to thwart terror attacks. I think it's their responsibility. At a time where the Palestinian Authority and we acted together, Israel was not required to do such expansive activity in the West Bank. The lack of security stability at the moment in Jenin and Nablus does not enable us to just look aside. If not for the rift among the cities, there'll be terror abroad. And the role of our security forces is, first of all, to do anything possible in order to defend our citizens. In such a week where also a high officer was killed of the Israeli army, we have an opportunity to see it quite directly. Also, the situation in Gaza is not stable and it's volatile. We saw in the last campaign that intelligence was very important. There'll be a reaction to any violation, any breach of the Israeli home front. We are ready for deterioration, but we also want to create a situation of quiet, of calm. We managed in an effort to reduce the very short campaign of Breaking Dawn, and we ended the event on time, and that's another opportunity now to thank Egypt and Assisi for his personal involvement. He did it in order to verify that the reality in Gaza will be as stable as possible. We invest a lot of effort in order to solve the MIAs and the POWs, to have an agreement that will be able to bring back home our citizens, our soldiers. I'm not going to go into details. That's not the forum for that. But I do take advantage of this podium to mention it. As for the northern area, we've been coping with a lot of threats of Nasrallah. In the north, the negotiation on the border is actually an excuse that enables Nasrallah to direct his rhetorics, but we feel that he's more daring. It happens when Lebanon itself, the state, is in a very harsh political reality. The economy is very unstable. Israel is interested in a stable Lebanon. Israel does not want to see the collapse of Lebanon because of the impact of Hezbollah there. And therefore, we are acting seriously in order to advance the negotiation. We understand the advantage of such an agreement to the security and national stability, and we hope that the Lebanese administration will also strive to come to agreements and will not enable Hezbollah to continue with the lack of stability with its rhetorics. Together with that, it's important to say that Israel is not going to be deterred by these threats. Israel will continue to act in order to realize its own interests, especially the energy interests that Israel has. The Karish rig will start acting the moment it will be ready, the moment the gas will be taken. And it's also going to be a way for the agreement in order to export gas to Egypt and liquid gas to the European Union later on. When we talk about the internal rifts in Israel, the operation at the time of the Guardians of the Wall, the more we look at it, we find ourselves in a situation where there is a challenge to the governance in the geographical periphery of Israel, in the Negev, in the Galilee. It is reflected in personal security of the citizens. There's an escalation also in the crime scene and all the nationalistic components of crime in the Arab society. There's a lot of weapons and armaments all over the country. And there's a comparison between the crime and terror. And this is high on our agenda. The decision of the government 549 and the establishment of a safe track that we are leading, where it encompasses all the enforcement bodies in Israel. The idea is to touch upon the roots of crime, no matter what kind, before it becomes national, to reduce it in an effective way as much as possible, while cooperating with the leadership of the Arab society. We are aware of the fact that during tension, there's an enhancement. The Ramadan days did pass quite quietly, and there was no problem at that. But after the Guardian of the Walls, we are supposed to be alert for the future. And this is true especially about Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. There's continuous attempts of Hamas and others to incite and to create a narrative according to which Al-Aqsa is in danger, and at least Jerusalem. We are always on guard regarding that. We act in order to clarify and to see and light the incitement. Israel didn't change its policy in the Temple Mount when it doesn't want to do that. And in general, in Jerusalem, we want to maintain the freedom of worship, freedom of movement, and to enable the continued quiet.
At the same time, the various challenging arenas around us and the threats, we also have opportunities. Our relations between us and our neighbors are getting stronger and improving. The normalization spirit of the Abraham Accords is allowing us to say that out loud without hiding it. We are putting content in terms of the civilian and economic areas, as well as the security. We have our water agreement. We have an ongoing dialogue with Bahrain. We have agreements with Morocco, all of which allow us to be hopeful. and to believe that these collaborations also broaden and expand to other countries. This also has a positive effect, as I've said, on Jordan and Egypt. We're feeling it immensely, particularly in the last 12 months. We have greater commerce with Egypt, and Nitzana. A crossing has opened. We are promoting the green and blue prosperity agreements for solar electricity and for desalinated water with the Jordanians. The Sha'ar HaYarden Jordan Gate industrial zone that's been waiting for many years is now being promoted. We have an energy collaboration in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean basin. And we're also able to have secure flights to places we haven't flown to for many years. We have Israeli airlines going to Sharm. We are also able to travel to Turkey. We have flights going to the Gulf. And we hope that we will soon be able to allow Israeli airlines to also fly safely over Saudi Arabia. This conference is about counter-terrorism and therefore it is focusing on threats by nature, but it was important for me to at least conclude with the idea that we also have opportunities. I would like to therefore conclude by saying that Israel's strategic balance is mixed. We have assets, we have anchors, as I've mentioned. We also have many challenges, some of which are exacerbating. And yet we must be thankful that we have less things to worry about because people are tired of war. We are trying to minimize our dependence on fossil fuels, and this is changing our aspect and the aspect of those around us and our perspective. We will continue to maximize the ability to improve our strategic situation, to improve the ability to tap into opportunities and to improve the preparedness for these challenges that might rear their ugly heads. Thank you very much.